Welcome in. Today we're talking about photo bashing. We're talking about how you can get those really crisp photo details into your compositions. Alright, photo bashing. Photo bashing gets you photorealistic textures really quickly, but they have to be done correctly or else it just looks really tacky and really lame. Photo texture is used a lot in concept art and in the industry just because it's the fastest way to get detail into a piece, and time is always an issue whenever you're trying to get paid for art, because you just need to get it done as fast as you can because you probably have 10 other things you need to do after you finish this one. And just as an added bonus, it looks really cool. Like, so this is here just brushstrokey and more painterly and stylized, and then this is just if you photo bash the rest of it. Now it looks a lot more realistic, a lot more photoreal, but the thing you have to be careful with photo bashing and getting more photoreal is that the more realistic you go, the more realistic everything else has to appear, meaning you can't have this, you know, raven bird bro here all tricked out and more photoreal flying right next to this guy. Like, it's a stylistic dissonance, not in a good way. Like, it doesn't work together. So be careful that if you go crazy with photo bashing, you're just putting a higher mark of polish on your piece, which is why a lot of people like to stay more loose. Or if they do decide to render it, a lot of people go photo bashing because photo bashing is a quick way to render everything. So let's get into how do we go from here to here? Well, with pictures. So these are most of the ones I use to get it done. And let's just say that you are me and you just, you know, you got this bird, you painted it, looks kind of cool, whatever. But now you want to bring it to the next level. So you go to Google and you just type in textures. You type in raven texture, crow texture, blackbird texture, feathers, like anything, and you go to large images and you put these and you throw them into your document. And then you go through and you organize them a little bit. So you hit right click here and you can go through and you can give them a different color just so you don't lose the original OG file. Okay, so here you go and you're ready to start. So we're going to start with this guy here, red. I think this is feather, this guy here, yeah, feather 1. And the first thing you're going to do is put on a layer mask. A layer mask lets you not do destructive editing, and what destructive editing is, just to show you real quick, destructive editing is when you can't undo something, like it's gone forever unless you're at the mercy of your control Z. So if you do this, right, and you're trying to, like, you only want this part of the raven, then, you know, that works. But then if for any other reason you're like, oh wait, I actually want to have this part here, like I want this back, all you have to do is just control Z and pray that it gets there. But if you use a layer mask, you don't have that problem. And what it does is it changes you paint now instead of erase with black and white, and then that determines, like, black erases it, and then if you press X and switch over here, Y brings it back. And that's really it. And you don't have to worry about, you know, changing your mind or needing something later, because all you have to do is just press X and then go back to your layer mask and just, oh look, you get it all back. And you can use whatever brush you want, just like you can with an eraser, I suppose. But it's you use your brush instead of the eraser. See how it's on the brush tool right here? So that's a layer mask. This little Japanese flag down here, super like, you need to use it. It's your bread and butter. You use it all the time. So now we know what a layer mask is. We're going to use it. First things first is that you need to get rid of this super hard edge. So go up here, get an airbrush, and just softness it, like hardness all the way down, super soft, nothing up here. And this is just your brush panel, your brush settings. You can find this by going up. So you can just literally just go to the magnifying glass and type in brush settings, and you can find it right there. So hardness all the way down, airbrush default comes with Photoshop, and just soften the crap out of all these edges so it looks really soft. There you go. Ta-da! Okay, so that's pretty neat. Done. Now what you're going to do is you're going to duplicate it, because remember, these are your OG files. You don't take the colored one. So Control J, and then drag it down underneath your little rainbow. And then you're going to drag it over to whatever you're trying to photo bash, whatever you're going on top of, which, by the way, you need something to go on top of. You can't just take, you know, a picture and just throw it around. I mean, sometimes you could, like if you have like a building sometimes work that way, but oftentimes the best photo bashing is a texture that's applied to something you've already painted or created in 3D or whatever else, right? So here we are, and you know, you could try, you know, make it smaller, make it bigger, whatever. you know, you're smart enough to have a layer mask, so you could just try to go and like erase the, wait, is this the wrong one? Oh, I brought the OG down. That's funny. Go back. This guy's down here. Right. So you could try to, you know, try to erase it and, you know, try to get the perfect outline. But there's an easier way, and that's called a clipping mask. So if you press Alt and hover between your base you're going on top of and the texture, a little arrow appears, and if you left click, it snaps it to the bounds of whatever you clipped it to. So this place, in this case, it's stuck to plane, which is just this right here. Keep in mind that if you are working with a white background, like if you painted this, or like this is why it's kind of dangerous to work with white paint whenever you're creating, because say for example, like here, watch, if I take the color white and say, you know, I didn't really clean up my edges, or I still have all these loose things, and I just have the color white out here, it looks the same like this, like it looks, nothing's changed because it's white on a white background. If you take out the background though, you see that white, and then if you clipping mask something to it, you'll see this floating. You'll get really confused. You're like, what? I don't understand, because that's because you had somewhere along your process, like unless, you know, unless this is really clean, which I cleaned it up before this, like you're going to have some problems because you're gonna get confused. So make sure whatever you're going on is clean. It's just that on a layer all by itself. Like if you see here, it's totally transparent behind it. Like you can even see the little transparent checkers here. So all it is whatever I'm trying to texture, so this bird. Okay, so now that you have this, what's really important is that you have to know the direction of the form that you're putting the texture on. So like, you know, like just looking at this, that here, I'll do another layer just to show you. So you know that the bird is going down at an angle this way, and you know that the feathers are going to be going down like this. You know that the feathers aren't going to be like, you know, this, or where, like, I don't know, like something weird. You know they're not going to be like curly cues like this, or like pointing out like this. And that's just because, you know, like you have pictures of birds, like you look at it and you're like, they're going down this way, like they're going all the way down here, like, and you know, like they're following the form. You know that these feathers are on top of skin, which is on top of internal organs, which is on top of bones, which is like, you know, remember, like, so this is a 3D thing. It has volume, it has shape, so that you have to move your texture accordingly. You can't just take it straight up and down just like this and just can like copy paste your way to everything. Like you can, but it won't look as good. So that being said, now that you're here with it, you clipping masked it all nice. Your base is all plain with nothing on a transparent background. Now you just follow the form right here. And you have to remember scales. Like you could do this and then make them have huge feathers. Ta-da! Like, but that doesn't look realistic. So how big would the feathers be if you could paint? Like if you painted this, how big would they be? They'd be small, right? So you'd make this small, like this. Now remember, like even though we're using textures, it's not like you can't just slap on a picture and call it good. Like good photo texture means doing a lot of photos. So you made this guy small, right? And now you're gonna Control J. And remember, if you Control J a clipping mask, with the copied new guy, this guy here, feather 1 copy 2, see how he doesn't have that same arrow? He's no longer clipped to plane down here. So you're gonna have to do the same thing. Alt click. Now he's back. Control T to move, and then now here you go. You just keep going on your way. But be careful, because I'm sure you're starting to notice if you do this too many times, it starts to look tiled. It starts to look really obvious that this is the same picture duplicated over and over and over. You have these two, and then the one, and these two, and then the one. So how do you do this? How do you get around this? Well, the most obvious way is to like flip it around. So if you do Control T, and then I have flip horizontal as a hotkey, but if you right click, you can do flip horizontal here. So you can flip it around and automatically you have some variance. But even then you can still kind of see the 1-2-1 combo. So this is where the layer mask really comes in clutch. So you're right here, you need to erase, right? So get your soft brush, make it really, really big, because if you go really small, or I'll show you, if you use a hard brush like this, right? Actually, that toothy still technically works. If you use a really hard brush like this, and you like take out a square, like you see these hard edges right here, like right there, it looks really weird. So you have to either use a toothy textured brush like this guy, or a soft brush like this guy. and then you can just kind of erase out here, and it'll show whatever's underneath. Boom, just like that. And then if you move it around, is you have this little hole, but that's okay, because since you're on the layer mask, all you have to do is just soften up more. And then, so it's just this giant dance of putting semi-transparent textures all over each other, like all over. And then you could flip it vertical if you wanted to. Just make sure that you're keeping the form. And then go there. Oh, looks kind of nice. So you see the hard edge there? I don't like that. Erase that. Bring him in a little bit. There you go. So, and then this is what you do. You just keep doing this over and over and oh, hey, no, don't do that. Oh gosh. Stop it. And you just keep doing this over and over and over and over and over until you start getting there. Now, so this is just one. This is just this guy. I have another feather texture. Although these look more like pine needles than textures, but either way, it doesn't really matter. Like I've seen people use elephant skin, like elephant wrinkles for old people skin, or just leather, you know. So you can use whatever you want. So I'm going to use a second guy. I'm going to bring him down. And I'm going to clip him to here too. Boop. And now here we have a slight problem because even though they're both gray-ish, they still, like, this guy doesn't look the same. Like, he's noticeably brighter than what we were just using before. And there's a couple ways to remedy this. One is to go into blending modes here. And then if you just click on it, and you can use your arrow keys to cycle through. And you can just go here until you get something that you like. As a rule of thumb, multiply and darken are often used for texturing shadows and darker things. But if you're texturing something dark, you're usually going to end up using something like screen or lighten, which is over here. But again, that's still too bright. So what do you do? Well, we're going to leave it on normal for now because we're not going to mess with blending modes. And we're going to press Control U for hue and saturation. And here you go. You have your saturation. It's already black and white, so you don't have any colors to mess with. So you can leave that the same. But if you go here to lightness, you just bring it down a little bit. And you can go as dark as you all the way down to black, all the way up to white. So you just go down until, like, you're looking for this line right here. This hard line, right? You're looking for it to be about the same like that. Look at that, pretty good. And remember, so all you have is this. You still have a layer mask, and you just go through and you just erase that hard line. This also works if you have a higher resolution texture in addition to lower resolution ones. Like this one looks a little bit more crisp than the one underneath. That's fine. That's cool. Do this. Give it a little bit of. You can have these guys going down since you have the main direction going down here, and then now you can get like a little patch of detail. So you got to be you erase like 90% of it. And now you have a little tuft. This is too pixely down here. I don't like that. Move up there, and now this little guy just pokes through. Now he has a little tuft right there, little tuft of feathers. But maybe over here, rotate it, and you just do this over and over and over and over. If something doesn't look right, like this guy down here, look how blue this is. All you gotta do for this, Control U, and the hue and saturation changes it over here, so you can make them. You know, if you had a red bird or a green bird, yellow, whatever. But since he's black, all I gotta do is lower down the lightness, lower down the saturation, and then, you know, just bring him over here. I messed with the original one. See how I've messed with the blue one? You shouldn't do that, but it's an educational video. I already got it done. We're fine. So you go here, right? I won't do that. See, like, so this is where if it's too close to a background, you got to go in by hand, and you just got to, you know, trace it like this, which is also why a layer mask comes in handy, because if you slip up, you're like, oh no, shoot, you can bring it right back. Also, just as an aside, airbrushes are not good for doing this because you'll always get this little glow. So you want to use a hard brush when you're trying to, or better yet, the Lasso Tool, which is up here, when you're trying to outline things. So just do this all the way until you get your whatever you want. I use this guy for the eye. So I literally just did this, and then I selected everything else and just deleted it. Like, and again, usually everyone thinks photos just is like an instant fix, but like it takes a lot of time to do good photo bashing. Like, granted, it's faster than if you did everything by hand and painted it, but it still takes a decent amount of time. So you don't expect everything to be fixed just because you could Google a few pictures of a bird or whatever. Oh look, that looks kind of cool. I like that eye. Oh, how convenient. It's already looking in the same direction. Imagine if the bird was looking like this. What do? Well, I just showed you. You just flip it horizontal. And then even then, if you didn't want that, press Control-T, you have perspective right here. Go to perspective. But you can make him look more down or more up or whatever by messing with the perspective of it. Make him look like he belongs there. So basically, the essence of photo bashing is taking your photos and making them look like they belong in the piece by using hue and saturation. Some people use levels, which is also really, really great. Using hue and saturation and layer masks, and then sometimes blending modes if you want to get really creative with it. And that's pretty much it. You just do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So like the wings though, like right here, say I take these guys, you know, and I just get rid of this. Clipping mask. Lower it down a bit. See how it's bright? What do? Control U. Hey, that rhymes. That should be easy to remember. Bring down the lightness, bring down the saturation sometimes. Like, that looks fine. That looks fine. Right? Already, boom, just one pic. Like that always feels nice. If you get one picture that just covers so much, you're like, hey, awesome. I didn't have to like do this stuff down here. Like, but that just takes time. Like you got lucky sometimes if one texture looks so good and it just fits with the angle and everything that you're looking for. Lucky, it's awesome. Something else that you might want to consider is that with your layer mask, we talked about toothy textured brushes here. If you still want to keep a painterly element to your piece, what you can do is you can erase out with a texture brush that makes it kind of look brush strokey. So not like that, not like crazy hard, but if you just take some and you let your original painting shine through, it can make it look more, it can kind of blend that. Oh look, there's a photo texture, like obvious element to it. You can do that. So you see how like some of the painting shines through, you know, and it's up to you. You can do like more or less. Like you can erase like maybe like this whole part you want your original to show through. Maybe you really like that and you want to erase something else if you don't really need it. Like, there you go. And if you multiply it again, you know, move it down. But now you can do, I mean, say like the sky's the limit. Just because you're using a photo texture doesn't mean that you have to be really quick and lazy. Like, you should actually take your time and do it more. And then also remember light and shadow. So he has wings here. Like if the light is coming from like the top left, if it's black and white, so it's kind of hard to tell. And there's so much like going on with the feathers and being layered. You can take this guy here and just make it intentionally darker than everything else and give it some, try to put in that light information. Now erasing doesn't work so well when you like, see how it brought up everything and now that looks weird because I was erasing out of it. If you want to bring in light information, you should do that before you erase or else you get this weird stuff. But it's still a relatively easy fix. All you gotta do is just go through here and then soften up that hard cut that you did. But this guy here, super dark, you know, or just duplicate this guy, bring him down, and then make him really dark. So you can try to get some, like, now kind of like, always zoom in and out or squint your eyes to see. So like now it looks like this, having this lighter up here definitely feels like the light is coming from the top left. But now you have to be consistent, because if the light's coming from the top left, then that means if you take these guys here and, you know, you're gonna have to make it brighter on the top. But what do you do? So like, you don't want to have the whole thing be bright. So then what you could do is that you could take, you control U, you can brighten up the whole thing, and then you could take, you know, this color here, and then, you know, make another layer, clip it, and then just, you can kind of brush it. Now you get more that brushy text stroke, because you're painting on top of a photo texture. You can kind of do that and kind of try to weave it in and out, take these colors, and now you're like doing photos and brushes, and the concept art is like huge with this. People love that stuff in the industry, you know. But then since it's on a separate layer, you can still pump up your photo texture underneath, make it brighter. Like so, but that's just one example of how you can do it. But yeah, that's like, and even now, like just you know, throwing this all together, you can already kind of see it's starting to come together, and it's a labor of love. It takes time. Now, granted, this is the fastest way to get rendering. Like, imagine if you tried to do this all by hand, and you didn't have pictures with built-in perspective that you're trying to capture, and shadow and everything else. But you can't just, you know, hey, look, a bird, I did it. You know, like, it takes a lot of nuance. It takes a lot of time to do right and actually make it look good. So that's all I have for photo. That's just intro, like basic stuff. You know how I said how you can't just like drag and drop a picture like that? I mean, you do that with environments a lot. You do it a lot with trees and mountains and things. But again, photo bashing only works if you know how to make it fit in the scene. And you only know how to make it fit in the scene if you know light and shadow and the tools available to you to make light and shadow happen in a digital medium. So you have to have that foundation. This isn't a shortcut. This isn't just a get good quick and make super sexy art. Like, you have to know the fundamentals and the basics of light and shadow and shading and things that you likely want to skip and that draws people to photo bashing in the first place. But if you don't know that, your photo bashing is going to look really, really lame. So you can't skip light and shadow and shading and everything else. So this is an awesome tool. You should use it. You should photo bash. It's awesome. 10 out of 10 would recommend, but it's not a replacement for the earlier techniques that you have to know. All right? Well, thanks so much for watching. I'll do another photo bashing lesson sometime in the future, but I hope this was enough to get your feet wet and to get you started looking into photo bashing and concept art as a medium. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next week.